cancel TNA. Now we found out through later reports that TNA still has a contract with the company all the way up until the latest February, Andy. So what's your thoughts? Cancel TNA.
I really, it stinks to me like somebody's doing a WCW, not WCW, an ECW on TNA. Somebody somewhere's pulling the strings to try and get them off television. To me, like somebody's doing.
Yeah, and with me, I don't know. I just think another big problem is with TNA just not properly, advertising, and that's been the problem all along. And even still, Destination America has not exactly been the greatest channel for them. So I think it's a little bit of both. By the way, folks, we are in the moment. I am your hardcore host, Brickhead, and I got the hardcore crew here with me. First, he is the son of a bitch, Andy. Andy, what's up?
Hello, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. And yeah, whatever. I forgot what I was going to say now.
And then we have the incomparable Lance Moss, and he's over at Lance Moss TV. Lance, what's shaking?
Not much.
Well, later on tonight, hopefully we will be joined by the Classic Wrestling manager, Joseph Knight. Joe usually has a busy schedule, so we will be hopefully look forward to speak to him later. Right now, we're going to bring in an old segment that we used to do we haven't done for a while, excuse me, and that's Lance Moss's controversies and scandals. Lance, over to you.
Well, the old boy Ian Rotten's done got himself in some trouble. This was last year, but oh well. Ian Rotten assaults children at wrestling show on Sunday, July 27, 2014. Former ECW wrestler and questionable promoter, that's putting it lightly, Ian Rotten, real name John Williams, assaulted a young child at an indie event and apparently thought it was justified. A very angry mother posted the following on Facebook about it. Since the Clarksville Police Department said they can't help me with this, I hope the internet will. Last night, 7/24/2014, I took my kids to a local wrestling event held at Jammers in Cleveland, Clarksville, Indiana. The event was hosted by IWA, which was honestly a great show until the end. One of the fights got into the audience, which we knew was a possibility. My kids moved, and when the fight was the way they moved again. My daughter, who is 11, got scared and was coming at me. Then John Williams, a.k.a. Ian Rotten, not with IWA. He is with IPW. Someone please correct me on that if I am wrong. Bumped into Ariana. He proceeded to say to her, fucking push me, and pushed my daughter. My son walks up. Aries is 9. The same MF motherfucker bent down and got in his face, said, you want to hit me? Then hit me, little bitch. Pushed my 9-year-old child, and you guys' thoughts.
Well, you know what? We want to welcome in the Classic Wrestling manager, Joseph Knight. Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I kind of I didn't understand what I just walked into.
Well, we just walked in. We were talking about, we had a classic segment, which is Lance Moss's controversies and scandals, and he was talking about when Ian Rotten attacked not one but 2 kids during an indie wrestling event. And this happened sometime last year. Apparently, no charges were filed. I think they settled out of court or something like that. Since you've worked in the independent wrestling companies, businesses, what's your thoughts about that?
Oh, first of all, if I was the promoter, I would definitely have sued, Rotten completely. I would that's something that the promoter's lucky he didn't get, in deep trouble. with the parents. He's lucky there wasn't a lot of, you know, just there's so much that could have happened legally that the promoter would have closed down completely. He would have been arrested. The, you know, the talent would have been, Axel Rotten would have been definitely, arrested. It's he's lucky that it just, it was settled out of court, but I wonder at what cost. And this is becoming a reoccurring thing that I've been seeing. It's not only our, wrestlers attacking kids. It's the situation where they're actually putting kids in the ring to,
Yeah.
and I think that's crazy. I don't know what's wrong with wrestling nowadays.
Yeah. Now, Andy, what were your thoughts about this? I mean, we've actually had Axel Rotten on the show a couple of times, but we've never really dealt with Ian Rotten. Your thoughts?
From what I know, and I don't know a great deal, only from what I see on internet footage, Ian Rotten seems a bit of a, excuse the pun, bell end. I'm only going by what other wrestlers have said about the guy, but I think he's extremely jealous about Axel Rotten. Axel got a bigger push than he got, and I think he's extremely jealous of that, but that's still no excuse why you go and do what he's supposedly been accused of doing with children. Maybe I'm wrong, but wrestling, old school wrestling, yet they used to get heat and they'd end up fighting outside the ring, and some wrestlers have been stabbed going to the car. But them days are gone. If they are one side of the barrier and you're the other side of the barrier, you should be professional enough to know that you don't overstep that mark. And if you do, you really shouldn't be in the industry. Maybe Joseph, correct me on this one, but what stays in the ring should stay in the ring and not spill out to the audience outside. I even see the professional WWE guys occasionally having a bit of a chin wag at some of the crowd and get in the phases, and it's just not very professional. One person I've seen do it quite regular is Randy Orton. He gets very vocal with the crowd, and quite a few times I've seen other wrestlers or referees have had to basically push him away from losing his rag. So it's got no place in wrestling, in my opinion, none whatsoever.
Yeah, well, you
Well,
brought up an interesting point, Andy, and so sorry, Joe, if I'm cutting you off, but you talked about how the professional wrestlers, how fans are always getting involved in this and that, and what should stay in the ring, stay in the ring. And over the past couple of weeks, we've seen wrestling fans jump in the ring or jump the barrier, and unlike the old days, they just let security take care of it. I mean, there was a wrestler who actually got in the ring at Night of Champions, and the wrestler just kind of looked at him like, "What the hell are you doing here?" Before they even did anything,
Yeah,
security was right there, and I think
really,
that's something that needs to stop.
that was really scary, because it's all right people saying the guy jumped in, he was the third member of Shield, and it was quite funny, and Roman Reigns and Dean Ambrose thought it was quite funny, and they tried to hide the fact that they were sniggering and laughing. But what would have happened if he'd have been a suicide bomber? He'd have just wasted 5 decent wrestlers.
or he would have just stabbed like, you know, Ambrose or whomever in the ring and ran off.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
here's the problem with professional wrestling. The way you see professional wrestling today, it's any person can become a wrestler. We've seen it on the indie scene where skinny kids are getting in the ring where they have no business being in the ring, and now everybody feels that they can just jump the rail and be a wrestler. There's no more consequences. There's no more, legitimacy to professional wrestling. So anybody who feels, oh, I'm going to be a wrestler, I'm going to jump the rails and just get in there and be like them. And back in the old days, in the '80s, if you look when a fan jumped into the ring, the wrestlers gave him the boot,
Yeah,
literally.
in fact, I even recall there was a few times over in WCW back in the NWO era during the Monday Night Wars, fans would jump the thing, and I remember Scott Steiner a couple of times just picking him up, giving him a boot, and chucking him out of the ring. literally over the
Well,
top rope. And like, you want to be
well,
a wrestler? We'll treat you like a wrestler.
even
Absolutely.
earlier than that. Sorry, Joe. Even earlier than that, if you think back, I think it was Chris Jericho against oh God, what's his name? Light Cheat Steel, Eddie Guerrero, and both Eddie Guerrero and Chris Jericho basically kicked 7 bells of shit out the guy and threw him over the top rope, and that was on a Raw.
Well,
Yeah.
and here's another thing too. When fans used to get into the ECW, the original ECW ring, the guys like the Dudleys used to stomp the living crap out of them. And let's put it like this: you know, in the old days, the wrestlers were respected. Not everybody jumped the the ring, not the guardrail to get into the ring. Wrestling was respected because you didn't want to get in the ring with a bunch of guys who were muscular, who were big, who were literally larger than life. Now look at the wrestlers that we have today. You got the Lucha Dragons, you got the Matadors, you got the Usos. None of these guys are physically intimidating. So they look like your average kid in the street put on a pair of fucking tights and getting in the ring. And I think, while yes, that's today's wrestlers, like a guy like Dean Ambrose and all that, I'm not taking nothing away from them. They're excellent workers. But can you honestly compare them to Hulk Hogan, Roddy Piper, Mr. Wonderful, Nikita Koloff, Magnum, Ric Flair? You know,
No,
No,
the,
no.
these guys are not that intimidating. And I went to already a couple of WWE shows, and I said, "Oh my God, I'm bigger than these guys." And I'm
I,
like 5'11" and a half, almost 6 feet, and I'm bigger build, and I'm standing next to the ringside, and these guys, Dean Ambrose walks right by me, and I'm like, hell, I could bitch slap the guy because he's that small.
Well, you know
yeah,
what? I want to bring something up, actually, which is a couple of things we're going to talk about, because one of our main topics of the night is going to be some of the top WWE wrestlers who should or could make it within the next few years. And then I also want to flip it on the opposite side of the NXT guys who did make it up to the WWE but just never made that impact. And that's something we're going to be talking about shortly. But before we do that, Joe, I want to talk about one of your favorite promotions, and that's TNA.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna stop you right there. I gotta make this comment. You know what? TNA doesn't. You know what makes more sense than TNA? Ask me what makes more sense than TNA.
What is that?
The teacher from Charlie Brown. I'm lately after yeah, there you go. Wah, 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 wah. Hell, that person seems more intelligent than freaking Dixie Carter. I'd rather sit down and listen to wah, 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 wah than anything that spews out of Dixie Carter's mouth.
Well, let me ask you this then, and I tried to ask this over on our HWR chat room, and so far I haven't really gotten a solid answer. We all know that Dixie Carter recently bought off all of Jeff Jarrett's shares, so pretty much she now owns TNA all the way through. Um, what do you think's behind all this? Is there really something amiss, or is she just
Uh,
wanting full control?
well, she just wanted full control. Because regardless, even when Jarrett held a certain amount of, when he owned a stock in the company, he can say what he wanted out of TNA. Even though she has the ruling power to say no, he will always be that thorn on her side. You know, and I'm going to go off in a little bit here. Did you guys read the comment? It was a tweet by one of her TNA staff that says, for all the doomsayers and naysayers that says TNA is going down the drain, we did 3 consecutive shows and we did well. Let's and they're the top second. He claims that they're the second best independent wrestling company, professional wrestling company out there. And he quoted 3 numbers for 3 different shows, and I had to laugh. I want you guys' comments on this. Okay,
Andy, over to you.
yeah. Go back to Joe in a sec, but I think Dixie's main thing now is like everybody, if they've started and it doesn't have to be a business. I mean, I've got as you know, a paranormal team. It's not a business; it's a hobby. But when things start to go down the toilet, pride starts to kick in, and you tend to think, I don't want this to fall flat on its arse, whatever it takes to make it work. And you know deep down in your own heart it's not going to work. I'm going to throw everything at it and just prove to people it can work. And I think with Dixie, it's now pride. The only thing that's keeping that company going is her pride, but she's soon going to run out of money. And what's it going to be floating with then when she's got no pride left?
And that's an actually interesting point. I want to kick this one over to Lance. We heard several rumors that the reason why she wanted to buy all the shares is so she could opt to sell it after this kind of deal with Destination America goes south. What's your thoughts?
That's the one that makes the most sense to me because it's kind of like another community that I'm involved in. Because when a company starts buying up all the stocks, it acts exactly what they plan on doing, selling. Because if say one partner does not want, is being a pain in the ass and won't sell, what do? You buy that partner out and then sell.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where my head's at. I think eventually we can see TNA selling. I don't think they're going to sell right away, but I think it could happen.
I personally think the reason why she's done it is to probably prove to her father that her father might be saying, I've got no faith in this company anymore, it's going nowhere. And she's probably trying to think to her father, well, I've put my money into the company now. I've bought the shares out of my money. I've got faith in it. So you're saying you've not got faith in me? So she's probably trying to turn it round on her father. Well, if she's prepared to put all her money in, maybe I'm being a bit harsh and I'll give her a bit more. Maybe she's biding her time for a bit longer. That's how it comes over to me.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we should move along here, and I want to get over, of course, to one of our main topics, and that's, wrestlers of the WWE. We've talked about how there really is no future with the WWE so far as the wrestlers go because, there's right now is the top 5 guys in the WWE. You want to look at John Cena, you want to look at somebody like Seth Rollins. I'd say Brock Lesnar, even though he's part-time, but, unfortunately he still gets one of the biggest pops. And I think what we should really start doing is looking at the guys who could or should be in the top within the next several years. I'm going to name off 2 right off the bat, and I think Cesaro has that potential to being one of the top guys, and Neville, if he manages to play his cards right. Joe, if you could pick 1 or 2 guys who should make it to the top, what would Joe be 2?
Oh, wow. That's a difficult thing because I don't think anybody's ready, to be honest. While Neville's a good flippity flip, I don't see him being. I could see him being a U.S. champion, and that's rare. Rick, I gotta say at this, and looking at the entire roster, I can honestly say none of those guys are ready to break to be your next icon, legend, true face of the company. Seth Rollins is right now. He's portraying the great heel. But if you exclude him, I'm sorry, I can't think of anybody.
Yeah. Well, again, I don't think they're gonna break out immediately, but I was thinking within the next 5 or 6 years. Because in the next 5 or 6 years, you have to think about somebody like John Cena. He's going to be going to part-time. He's going to be 43 by then. Now, will he quit wrestling? I don't think so, but he'll certainly be winding down by then.
I don't see Cena being in the next 5 years, to be honest. I really don't. I think he'll be gone way before then. But the only trouble is, as I've said before, all these guys that they put in all the eggs in the basket are not that much younger than John Cena. So Vince hasn't even thought of longevity. Like The Rock's been in it, he was in WWE in his early 20s. And stayed through until his mid-30s. There's nobody there's nobody in the WWE now, age-wise, who's going to have a 10 to 15-year career.
And then there's another factor you got to throw in, Rick. These guys are literally, they're going 200 miles per hour. So their life expectancy in the ring is really shrinking. They're not doing that well to last longer. I think that's another thing we have to look at. These guys are literally look at well, what's his name?
Daniel Bryan?
Daniel Bryan. He's another one. 200 miles per hour, and look what he did to himself. A lot of these guys are going to burn themselves out in a year or two because they can't slow down. And another thing with the WWE is they push them so fast on TV that their luster dies out in what would you guys say, like 6 months to a year?
Yeah.
And we already look for somebody else?
Yeah, I don't understand, personally speaking, I do not understand why they are holding back. And I think you'll probably agree with me to some degree. Why isn't Finn Balor up there now?
Well,
why are they holding him back? I'll tell you exactly why I think he's being held back. Because Triple H knows he's better than the shit that he's got on the show at the moment. Triple H has made the decision. He wants Kevin Owens up there, and he wants Dean Ambrose, and he wants Roman Reigns. Yes, they are both growing on me. But the rest of the people that have come from NXT, they're the shit. Wade Barrett is... He ought to retire now because they're just making him to a complete jobber.
Yeah.
And the Wyatt family, they ought to get rid of him now. If it wasn't for that new bloke coming in and revamping him, they died a long time ago.
Well, before you do that, I want to bring up what you talked about Finn Balor. Finn Balor said on a couple of interviews that he has no desire to go up to the main roster because he's happy with that kind of indie feel that he's always been with, and he just kind of likes the smaller crowds.
That is because of the same thing that Joe has just hit the nail on the head. He knows when he goes to the big time. I don't know. The only way I can put this is wrestlers now are like a candle. The moment they get in the big time, they light that candle, and that candle's only got a set life. Once that's burnt down to the bottom and it goes out and extinguishes, your career's gone. I mean, We've just been talking about I can't think of his name. Got a brain tumor tonight.
Well, why are you thinking about him? Let me kick
Brie Balor's chap.
Daniel Bryan.
Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan's been in the Indies 15 plus years and was going like a train. As soon as ever he hits the big time, he's burnt himself out too soon. He's give too much too soon.
And I think the WWE is trying to fix that issue.
I don't think they ever will because the shows are too long. They've got too many shows on TV and they're doing in-out. Now, to me, the in-house stuff should have probably 1 or 2 stars. Let's say they've got 10 matches per in-house night. 8 of those should be NXT stars and 2 just to draw the crowd in. Probably a John Cena and probably a Ryback thrown in there in the mix, so the fans will go just to see them too.
Yeah, I agree with you there, Andy. Let me just cut you off.
I think the others fighting 24/7, 7 days a week is just too much.
Oh, that's great. But again, I need to cut you off, and I want to kick things over to Lance, because Lance, we haven't really heard from Lance about who he thinks could possibly make it to the top, if anybody.
Well, I guess it might be because I'm on such a... Well, I've been kind of turned into an ROH guy, kind of guy, but I think Owens has a lot of potential when they decide to let him go full, as I call it, full steam, but without the language. And especially if they let possibly book Zayn once they bring him up. Zayn and Owens in a match, oh my God. Especially if they do that at Mania, that could make both of them.
And you know what? Before we go on anymore, I would love to introduce the Ducky Man in the chat room, and that's the WrestleGamer, Billy Boudreaux. Billy, welcome to the show.
Billy Shucky Ducky Quack Quack.
That's right. Billy, if you're listening, if you could think of anybody in the WWE who could make it to the top, who would that person be? We'll have to think about that. And I'm going to name a couple of other guys who I think really does have that potential. And it's 2 of the Shield members. And that's Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns. Now, will they make it next week or next month or even next year? Not necessarily. They kind of teased it with Roman Reigns at WrestleMania, and he came very close to winning the title. I think both of these guys have that potential to be the leader, if not one of the top 5 guys in the company. You know, as I said before, Cesaro, great wrestler. Now, Andy, I know you're not a big fan of Kevin Owens, or Kevin Steen as he's called, but I still think he has potential to be maybe on the bottom of the 5 guys. I don't know if he would ever make it to a WWE Championship. That's just my thoughts. But another thing you talked about was NXT guys, who kind of come up in the spotlight and they fail, or just, kind of like have issues. Some guys that were successful, of course, was all of the 3 Shield members. Those are just ones off the top of my head. Cesaro was another one. Daniel Bryan, unfortunately, his candle went out too soon, but he did make it. But now I want to talk about the guys who didn't make it. People who just were in NXT but could not make that impact. Few names off the top of my head. Bo Dallas. This guy, you know, was pretty decent over at NXT, but once he came up, he just couldn't go anywhere. And another guy group, another tag team is the Ascension. These guys, again, dominated the NXT tag team division. They come up and they're jobbers. Joe, what's your thoughts about this?
You know, another name you could throw in there, Adam Rose. He started really good, and they kind of blew him away. You know, the problem again. I think what we're seeing is the WWE takes these good workers from NXT, and they don't know how to use them properly because they're indie stars, and they put them into a ring with the current roster, and they just don't know what to do with them, so they give them lame gimmicks. I want to go real quick to Finn Balor. You know, Finn Balor saying that, he's comfortable in NXT. That shows an unwillingness that he knows that I just want to be here. I want to say I'm in the WWE. I want to collect a paycheck. See, that's the problem in professional wrestling today. Ziggler, all these guys, they just want to collect a paycheck. They don't want to extend or get better. But Rick, I think, like I said, Adam Rose is one guy who I enjoyed his gimmick when he first started, and then they went to, I guess, Party Pooper now, and then something else. So you're not going to see these guys are just being pushed too fast, and when it fails, they just give them something new because they have nothing else to do.
Yeah. Andy, do you know of anybody offhand? Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let me. Billy wants to respond. He thinks one of the top 5 guys that can make it in the WWE is the guy who jumped the guardrail at Night of Champions. Billy, that's really insightful. But you know what? I'm sure you somewhere down the line have somebody else you want to think about. But another person that I think who honestly had so much potential in NXT and maybe even in the WWE, but just couldn't get past some of the issues is Damien Sandow. Now, Damien Sandow really has that potential. He has that charisma. He has that personality that fans were getting behind. But I think a big problem, as you said, Joe, is they gave him character, wannabe characters. He was always playing as somebody else rather than being himself, and I think that's a main problem. Andy, your thoughts on some NXT guys that just didn't make it?
My thoughts on Damien Sandow is they turned him into the new village idiot, and he'll never, ever get over now being the new village idiot. No matter what gimmick they give him, you're still going to think of him as the village idiot. But I don't watch a great deal of NXT, but apart from Finn Balor and the guy that Lance mentioned, that Kevin Steen's always having matches with the guy, I don't see anybody else that I'd even consider going any further. And I wouldn't even consider most of them deserve to be in NXT. I've seen far better on the indie circuits on YouTube than some of the NXT guys that they've got on the roster at the moment. And it all boils down to whether people like me for saying it or not. If you've got $5,000 in your arse pocket, you're in NXT. It's that simple. I don't understand these wrestling people, these friends that we've got in the industry. I'm not going to mention anyone's names, but I've had a tryout for NXT. Well, if you can't get in NXT now, the way it is, you don't deserve to be a wrestler because you pay $5,000 and you're in.
Now, Billy over in our chat room, he suggested Colin Delaney. Now, he didn't really say as to who he thinks would make it or who would make it. Considering I've never heard him, I'm guessing he's in NXT and he just never got that far. Some other wrestlers, you know what, Lance? What were your thoughts? Who do you think was in NXT that just didn't shine and just couldn't make it?
Well, the two guys that I heard, and one I kind of got to disagree with because I think they're kind of starting to do a little something with them. The two guys that I definitely agree with is Bo Dallas and Adam Rose. Those just never got over. The guy I gotta disagree with because I think they're starting to do something with them is the Ascension. They're starting. It's just taking them a damn long while to do that.
And you are very right. Billy in the chat room made a good name. That's Curtis Axel. This guy had to go through a whole brand change just to get over, and he didn't even get over. I mean, when he first came out, he was getting pushed like crazy. He even beat Triple H in one match, and you would figured, wow, maybe this guy is going to be something, but it didn't last. It was a quick push, and then he sunk down into nothingness again.
Well,
Fluked them.
yep. And you know what? And here's the thing too, Rick. Again, they did not know what to do with him. When Curtis Axel came in, he was the perfectionist. They made him into Mr. Perfect's copy. I'm sorry, if you want to put someone that's Mr. Perfect, Dolph Ziggler will fit more of that role than Curtis Axel. Ted DiBiase Jr., if we remember, that was another guy who had potential, but he didn't have the heart for it. It's the industry has changed so badly because there isn't solid competition to make these people thrive. And I know people get tired of hearing me say that, but let's face facts. You can be a mark all you want. Look at the WWE and cheer for the spot monkeys. Once those spot monkeys get injured, what's next? That's why Daniel Bryan is gone because he was a spot monkey.
Well, you're talking about the spot monkeys who do the flips and stuff like that, is what you call the flippity flops. Um, but it looks like the WWE is trying to turn the page, or at least go back to what they used to do as the big strong guys, look like Braun Strowman, Cesaro. Do you feel that could be the future, or do you feel that it's just too little, too late?
I think it's just another phase of what they're trying to do. I think it's just a situation where now they can see that the imagination is not being captured by the big guys, so small guys. So they try now to experiment with the big guys. They brought Kane back. And he's what I found funny was I got a glimpse at Monday Night Raw, and the amusing thing is they're doing the Joseph Parks gimmick with Kane. I'm not Kane. There must be somebody else being Kane. He's corporate Kane, yet he comes out as the big red machine Kane.
Yeah, and you know what? It kind of reminded me almost like a Jekyll and Hyde. Now you did mention how TNA did something very similar with Abyss, but it wasn't executed right. And I think that WWE, excuse me, could very well execute this a lot better. And I think it really has the potential. Uh, we ranted last night about how bad Raw was and how it was just a very dry, watered down version of Night of Champions. And one of the couple of segments that was decent was, of course, Kane, who popped up through the ring and pulled Seth Rollins back down to hell. And another segment was Paige turning heel. I don't really want to go back onto that tangent again, but I think we should wrap things up here.
Before we go, do you know what? Do you know what? We're missing out on the point here of we keep saying what's going to bring wrestling into the new generation.
Okay.
Wrestling. I'll throw something out to everyone listening now. Think about what I'm going to say and correct me if I'm wrong. If you watch Monday Night Raw now, if you stop every single talent that's new, forget the old guys because they don't seem to do it as much, the new guys, take the top rope out the wrestling business, stop people doing high-flying moves, how much wrestling do you see? Zero.
I got to agree with Andy. If you take away the high spots and spot monkeyisms that these guys are doing, the 200 miles per hour, they will be lost. You know what? I challenge the fans. look on YouTube for 80s wrestling. I don't care which promotion, WWF, NWA, which was the pre it was the pre WCW. Look at the AWA. Look at the WCCW. Look at those shows, and let's compare them to today. And I guarantee you'll be more entertained from the 80s than you'll be watching today. You want to watch action spot monkeyism? Yes, today is your thing. You want to watch storylines, you want to watch characters, you want to see wrestling? Look at the 80s.
Yeah. Now, one thing again before we wrap this up, you mentioned legends, and I think legends are really stealing the spotlight from today's wrestlers, and maybe that could be really one of the big problems. Now, we've already talked about how some of these wrestlers are coming complacent in where they are because they're just there for that big paycheck, that big payoff, and they are also saying, "Hey, I'm a WWE wrestler." Um, and I just feel that maybe if they kind of got that little bit more of a push and more of a spotlight, maybe they would feel that they would have a reason to push it to the next level.
Yeah, but the problem, and I know we're going to go extend it here, and I'll make this really quick. The problem with that scenario is these guys cannot cut it promo wise. They can't cut it charisma wise. Some of them do. A majority of them don't. So what happens when you can't sell your product? You go back to your original product. Uh-oh, it's Dixie calling.
Uh,
You know,
well, from there,
but
I think we are going to wrap it up. Real quick, Joe, where can everybody find you?
Yep, they can find me on Facebook at facebook.com Joseph Knight Manager. They can also find me on Twitter at JKnightCWA.
All right. And guys, please make sure you follow us over at facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio and join us in the chat room where you could pretty much say what you want, how you want to say it, guys. We are not PG, and that's over at facebook.com under the name HWR Chat Room. Also, please take a few seconds to like this video and also help support us by clicking that subscribe button in the upper right-hand corner. We also have my sidekick, my partner. He is the son of a bitch, Andy. Andy, what do you got going on?
Yeah, I've got an investigation on Saturday, and you can find me at www.stokehaunted.com. And don't forget to hit that like button, not only on my page, but on the HWR, because every like counts.
Absolutely. And last and certainly not least, we have the incomparable Lance Moss, and he's over at youtube.com/Lance Moss TV. Lance, what's up?
I do got album reviews, NASCAR discussion videos, redneck normal cooking videos, musical equipment reviews, some rants. Every Wednesday I go live at 7 Central. I never know who the hell's going to show up, but it's always a good time. So subscribe to catch all that. And follow me on Twitter. It's @LastMossTV.
All right, and last but not least, we do want to thank all the people who come into the chat room. Of course, the WrestleGamer. We give him a hard time, but you know what? He is family. And he wanted to make one last comment. He said the worst segment of Raw was Paige's heel turn. And
apparently you're an ass monkey.
Yeah, I guess I'm an ass monkey, but you know what? I'd rather be an ass monkey than a duck. But you know what? It is what
quack,
it is.
Quack.
I embrace that. But so for everyone here, I am your hardcore host, Rick Head, saying we'll see you when we see you.